Hey there, welcome to the Daily Briefing for Wednesday, July 29th, and I'll just tell you right up front, in addition to the usual reminders, these are available at the 1 p.m., in the 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. hours on the radio, also uploaded to youtube.com/CordovaTV. I'll tell you up front here that we don't actually have a guest for today's program because things are in cruise control, largely locally. Our count is still the same as yesterday. We currently have one active resident case and one active non-resident case. However, there was a pretty extensive press conference at the state level yesterday with Governor Dunleavy and other members of the administration. And so we wanted to point that out to you today. Not to play sections of it, because we actually did that this morning on the talk show, but just to kind of summarize some of the more relevant takeaways for, particularly as they apply to Cordova. And then, if you would like to hear more, then we encourage you to go to the talk show we did on this earlier this morning, and that's posted at youtube.com/CordovaTV. It would be the town meeting talk show for this same day, July 29th. But just in summary, there were two kind of big takeaways. First is a change to the out-of-state travel mandate. If you hadn't heard about this through some other means, then it's something that you'll want to be aware of if you're a business that brings people in from out of state, or you've got any friends or family that were planning to come up for a visit. The change is that starting August 11th, the state is not going to provide COVID testing for folks who don't arrive with their proof of a negative test. The rule as it stands right now at the state level is that anybody from out of state that wants to come into the state needs to have proof of a negative test that they got no longer than 72 hours prior to when they boarded. If they showed up without that proof, there was a means for the state to test them, and then that person would wait in quarantine until the test result came back, and if it was negative, they could go on and do their thing, and if not, they needed to either go back home or stay in quarantine. Because of the rising numbers in Alaska, what's happened is they're going to change that policy because they need to preserve the test supplies for residents, either being tested while in the state or residents from out of state who are coming back home. Those people could still be tested at the airport, according to the governor's preliminary announcement. So this change, again, is primarily for non-residents trying to come into the state. They don't have that option to be tested in Alaska after they fly. They have to bring their negative result with them. Now, if you listen to the full report, you'll hear that the state hasn't quite sorted out the enforcement on that, whether they're going to, whether the result will be them being denied boarding on a flight to Alaska outside of the state, or if it's if they show up and they don't have their negative test. Are those people going to be either forced to go, to turn around and go home, or will they be required to quarantine for 14 days? They're still kind of sorting that part out. So it's something that you'll want to keep an eye on if this affects what your family's going to do or any clients. So we'll have to see how that evolves. But the same recommendation I made earlier this morning, I think it'd be a real good idea if you have any. There's about 2 weeks. This doesn't take effect until August 11th. So if you have any clients or workers that were going to come in that weren't under that essential category, or friends or family, be sure to let them know about this right away, that this is a possibility, so they can begin to make arrangements to get a test, and or if they can't or don't want to do that, to be prepared to learn what the enforcement strategy for the state is going to be. And again, this is just a brief overview on my part. If you want to hear this, we did a talk show on it this morning, and you can find that on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/CordovaTV. Or you can watch it directly from the state site, of course. We edited ours down a little bit, so it didn't have so much of the technobabble from the technical part of the press conference, but all of the meat of it, anything that's relevant to us, is in that show. So whatever's easier for you. The other main thing that they covered that was meaty in content, because there was, of course, a lot of philosophical, what does it mean to have numbers going up, and what's going to happen with schools and some of those other things. But the state, the administration took a different position than we've heard on them from them in the past on local communities implementing stricter guidelines when circumstances call for it. You may remember very early on, back in, what month was it, March or whenever the more aggressive mitigation started, that the feel from the state was kind of like, we want to make the rules and we'd like all the communities to follow the rules. And what they've learned since then, through examples of towns like ours, is that actually what the governor is now calling a more surgical approach makes more sense. In other words, deferring more to local communities if they feel that their individual community situation requires a different level of response than what the whole state is doing. And if you listen, you'll hear how we referred to, if something is happening in Anchorage, does it make sense for the state to do a sweeping statewide mandate for everybody to remedy a situation that's not occurring in Utqagvik or Cake or Sterling or Cordova? So this idea of recognizing individual cities and villages' ability to make decisions that make sense, and for the state to sound more supportive of that was an interesting aspect of this that was discussed at some length. The idea that more localized management makes sense and that the state sounds agreeable to largely supporting that. So again, I just wanted to summarize that for you here. We always recommend, as really any of us in media should when we're sharing summaries or clips or anything like that, always recommend if you really want to hear it for yourself, then do that. Take some time to hear it for yourself. And we provided, again, on our YouTube channel, the talk show we did on this, where we played pretty much the whole thing. We took some stuff out to save you some time that was just technical stuff about charts and statistics that don't really apply to us. But all the meat of it is in there. So whether you watch it on our channel, the town meeting video for July 29th, or you go to the state source and actually watch the video with all the charts and everything, either one. If you really want to have a good sense of what was said and how it was said and all of that, go to the source material. But if you want to take our word for it, that's fine. I think I covered the basics of it here. And again, the news from Cordova is still fairly good, unchanged from yesterday. I checked in with Mayor Copeland and Dr. Sanders. They said there really wasn't anything new to add, so we thought we'd just go this direction with today's briefing. And we thank you for listening to it. Daily briefings heard in the 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. hours on KLAM and KCDV, and also uploaded to youtube.com/CordovaTV, where you can hear this morning's talk show and the original material we were summarizing here today. The city's main website, again, with the most current dashboard information and so forth, covid19.cityofcordova.net. Your best source for local information in as close to real time as possible. It's more accurate in terms of its timeliness and context than what comes out in the state news releases, which, a case here can sometimes be reported days later there, which the mayor and Dr. Sanders know is confusing, and that's why they understand that. There isn't anything that can be done about it locally, so that's why using our dashboard is really the best resource. covid19.cityofcordova.net. You've got the 424 info line, the 424 well line. A lot of good assets as Cordova continues to have what so far is a really good response. And again, we hope these programs continue to be valuable. We'll wrap this one up and get back to regular programming now on the Clam and the Eagle.